Why live rightly? A second reason that Easter teaches is in verses 12 to 14. I call it the body belongs to the Lord factor. Verses 12 to 14 says this: all things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be mastered, dominated by anything. Food is meant for the stomach, and stomach for food. God will destroy one and the other. The body is not meant for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. And God raised the Lord, and will also raise us up by His power. Somehow, some way, many of the Christians in Corinth were getting it into their heads that Christianity was all about just spiritual things, about our spirit, that the body really just didn't matter. You could do whatever you want with your body. All things are lawful. That must have been a saying they were kicking around in Corinth, which Paul quotes here. Even going down and worshiping with one of those temple prostitutes. You can do what you want with that. That's your body. It's your spirit that counts. And what's the rationale for that thinking? Our bodies are temporary. Our bodies are what get old and die and go into the ground and are destroyed, but our spirit lives forever. So that's what we need to focus on. It was the early weeds of a pagan heresy known as Gnosticism that was starting to filter into the church. But there's a lot of that thinking going on today inside the church and even outside the church. I've talked to Christians today who minimize the care of the body, and they'll use this logic with me. Bodies are just temporary. And then they'll tell me a story about an uncle of theirs who at 40 was a fitness freak, and he died of a sudden heart attack. Meanwhile, great Aunt Martha's 95, and she's been a chain-smoking, bacon-inhaling sugar addict all these years. And look at her. Logic being life's a crapshoot. Why take care of my body and worry about nutrition? I think Paul would say that's wrong thinking. Your body belongs to the Lord. This thinking also has seeped outside of the church today in very, very tragic ways. It's believed today that by many that I can be a woman in a man's body, or I can be a man trapped in a woman's body, and that who I am is defined by what's in my soul or my spirit. That's my essence, but my body is disposable. I can do with it what I want, even tear it apart if I want to. And this is such dangerous silliness. For which is easier? To work on my mind, which is constantly changing, to make it fit within my body, which changes a lot less, or to tear my body apart to make it fit with my mind. So many people are being hurt by this thinking, and it's heartbreaking to watch. And I get it. On one level, it sounds, so wise and so liberating and so loving to just go along with this. But at the same time, I remember my Frodo in Lord of the Rings, who said, "It would seem like wisdom, but for the warning in my heart." You know what the Bible teaches? The Bible insists that our bodies are good and God-given. They're gifts from a loving Creator for us to enjoy, including our gender. It's right there in the first chapter of the Bible. God created us in His image, male and female. He created us. Why else do we know that our bodies matter? Well, Easter teaches us this. My body belongs to the Lord, and the Lord for the body. And come to find out, my body's not so temporary after all. We'll be resurrected, Paul says, just like Jesus. And guess what? Jesus was resurrected in a body, and so will I. And I don't think Paul's point here is that there's this direct carryover between this life and the next life, so that if you struggled with cholesterol and high blood sugar in this life, you'll be greeted by an angel with a syringe in the next life. I don't think that's it. That would stink. I think Bear 2.0 hopefully will not have psoriasis. I think Paul's point is this: that earth is a training ground for heaven, that life is a training ground for eternity. I mean, think about it. Everything about our lives is temporary. Our money is temporary. Woo-hoo, boy, we're learning that. Why then should I learn to save and budget and be generous and to give? Our relationships are all temporary. Why learn how to love and sacrifice and forgive? Our communities are all temporary on this side, aren't they? Why then bother fighting for decency and working for justice? Why bother when nothing lasts? Because there's one thing that does last. The character I forge and hundreds of daily decisions I make interacting with all these temporary things. And speaking of, each of these temporary things will be found in a permanent form on the other side, including bodies, communities, even a new earth, the Bible teaches. Do you see what a difference Easter can make for how we should live our lives?